Well, hello everyone. It's Sybil Starr, and I'm here to give the astrology update for the Scorpio new moon. And as we know, a new moon sets the intention or the energy for the whole month. So this energy is active for the next 30 days. And the Scorpio new moon occurs on November 4th at 2:15 p.m. Pacific time at 13 degrees of Scorpio. This new moon is opposite Uranus and square Saturn. And Uranus always brings in change and excitement and just an unpredictability and especially in these times of great uncertainty, it kind of exacerbates that. And also this month, we have the Taurus full moon lunar eclipse. I'm going to do a separate video on that. But just so you know that this month is a month of potential change, a lot of turbulence and unpredictable energy all month. But even in these times of great uncertainty and change, to know that we are always held in divine grace. And that's what this video is about. It is about the change as well as being held in divine grace through the whole month. Now, I often share the Sabian symbol for the degree of the zodiac of which I'm speaking. And for those of you who don't know what the Sabian symbols are, back in the 1930s, there was a psychic named Elsie Wheeler, and she had a vision for every degree of the zodiac. And I find they're often very helpful for understanding the message of the stars. And so the Sabian symbol for 13 degrees of Scorpio is an inventor performs a laboratory experiment. It seems kind of very appropriate for where we are right now. And I actually see this on three levels. First off is the level of what we're seeing in the world. We are in the midst of an experimental medical treatment that it's a whole experiment that is being done. Second, there's a psychic that I listened to recently named Wendy Kennedy. Many of you probably know her. And she said something I found very interesting. She said Earth herself is a cosmic experiment because our DNA has been seeded with from many different star systems, and it creates a vast and diverse emotional field. And we know that as part of the co-creation process, our emotions, our frequency, our vibration are a big part of that process. And so third, I also see recognizing that we are in an experimental process of co-creating a new earth, a new world. And it's a bit of a trial and error as we see what works, as we are creating something completely new for humanity. And so that brings us into Scorpio. As I talked about, the human state of being having a vast and diverse emotional field, Scorpio is so much about the emotional body. And feeling everything. A Scorpio has come to feel every human emotion, whether that's grief and sorrow or whether that's joy and happiness and everything that lies in between. And the key is to not get stuck, is to know that as we move through these emotional frequencies, that just to keep moving, that it will change. There is sometimes Scorpio has a potential sometimes to get stuck, and because it rules the elimination system, and because it has a hard time letting go. And Scorpio is all about letting go. I mean, that is one of the major teachings, is it's like a snake shedding its skin, knowing when it is time to let something go. And sometimes it can be hard, to do that. But that's one of the major teachings of Scorpio, is to not get stuck, to move the emotions through and let go of what no longer serves us. Scorpio is very much about emotional honesty with self and other, which is a key to emotional health as well as intimacy with others. The ability to own our own stuff. You know, the ruling planet of Scorpio is Pluto. Well, it's got two rulers, Pluto and Mars. Pluto is in Capricorn, and it's about taking responsibility for our own lives, because the sooner we take responsibility for our own lives, and especially our own our own feelings, recognizing that no one made you feel that way. You feel that way because someone may have triggered something within you, and it's important to recognize that, because when we take responsibility, we can change things. When it's somebody else's fault, we can't. There's not a lot we can do. So in every situation, you know, in Scorpio asks us to be emotionally honest with ourselves and take responsibility. And it's also, you know, about the cycles of life, death, transformation, and rebirth, and we are definitely moving in that process. We're creating we're releasing an old paradigm, and in the process of creating a new one. But we're in the midst of that process. And the last thing I want to say about Scorpio is that Scorpio, they say, comes in like the scorpion, ultimately then becomes the eagle, rises up from being the scorpion into the eagle. And ultimately, it's about rising like the phoenix from the ashes, completely transformed. And it's the emotional body that Scorpio has come to transform. And one of the keys to this transformation is forgiveness. And it always starts with forgiveness of self. When we can find ways to forgive ourselves for mistakes and things that we feel we have made, it makes it easier to forgive others. And you know, Scorpio has that old saying, you know, it hurts so good. But Scorpio can also recognize that that is not serving oneself, and to let it go. Okay. Now, this, as I said, the Scorpio New Moon, which is the Sun and Moon together at 13 degrees of Scorpio, is opposite the planet Uranus and square Saturn. Now, there's been a Saturn and Uranus square for all of 2021 and most of 2022. It's an aspect that is about 18 months in. That they're dancing together. And Uranus is very much about, you know, breaking the rules. It's the rule breaker, where Saturn is the rule maker. You know, Uranus is about, Saturn is the status quo, and Uranus is the resistance to the status quo. And, you know, it's the revolution. It's the planet of revolution and change, whereas Saturn is the planet of tradition and structure. And we are certainly seeing some major revolutionary changes in our structures. But I believe it's also about manifestation. Saturn and Uranus are the two planets that bring things into form. I call it bringing light into form, or the spiritualizing of matter. And Uranus brings change even when we want to hold on to the safe and secure. It needs to go. And I heard someone say once, in the dance between Saturn and Uranus will always win. It's a bigger energy, and when it's time for change, it's time for change, no matter how much we want things to stay the same. Okay, or it may just be we're afraid of things changing because it's the only thing we have known, where Uranus is taking us into uncharted territory. And in this new moon, you know, with Scorpio, so much about the emotional body. I feel like this Uranus is moving us out of our comfort zone. It's taking us into turbulent emotional waters, as the changes can bring up fear when times are uncertain. And Saturn can represent that fear. Um, and so I feel like the teachings are saying, Uranus is in Taurus, and Taurus is so much about Mother Earth and staying grounded and staying grounded and centered in our hearts. That is how to move forward. Connect to Mother Earth. Be like the storm, or be like the tree who the storm is swirling around, and our roots go down deep into the earth. So we're grounded and centered in our heart, as well as moving. It isn't like we're just stuck. It is being centered in our heart as Spirit is moving us forward in the direction that we need to go. But an easy way to stay grounded in your heart, actually, there's two that are very quick and will take you there. And one is to think of something that makes you really happy, that makes you smile. It can be a puppy, a kitten. It could be, for me, it's dolphins or water, the ocean. But another way is to just put your hand over your heart and take a few deep breaths. And I find that that will really, to kind of stop whatever it is I'm doing, if I'm kind of feeling like I'm in chaos, to take a deep breath, put my hand over my heart, take a few deep breaths, and it will really ground me. Okay. And because I feel like what is happening is Uranus is about freedom, and Saturn is the control matrix. Okay. Or Saturn has many teachings, but that's I'm going to say the more shadow side of Saturn is that control matrix in which of the paradigm, of the patriarchal paradigm in which we are living. And I had a teaching recently that said that we are, what keeps us, no, the teaching was everyone is connected to this control matrix, and it's a matrix of fear. We can use that word as well, through our lower frequency emotions, such as shame, blame, guilt, judgment, anger. All of those, I feel they're all really just simply different expressions of fear. And as Uranus, is shaking us out of our comfort zone, and as Uranus is doing that, these old patterns can come up so that we can look at them, and so that we can release them and make different choices. Once we can recognize a pattern, we have an opportunity to make a different choice, to respond differently, or let's put it this way, to respond instead of react in the way that the pattern that we have been following. And so it is a potential for a release from these low frequency vibrations, a part of a purification process of the inner work to keep our frequency high. Because we cannot move into higher frequencies carrying these old patterns, these old lower vibrational frequency patterns that we have in our field, the way we've responded in the past. And it's also about a release from the programs and conditioning of the collective, from our ancestors, and from this paradigm that we are living. And one particular one that I see really active right now, which is one of the cores of this control matrix of the patriarchal paradigm, is judgment. And it's how we see ourselves and others as less than. And the way I like to, it's kind of like original sin. It's like when we come into this paradigm, a part of the conditioning is that we are impure, basically. And the truth is, we couldn't be further from the truth. And it's when we think there is something basically wrong with us, we then have the potential to judge others in the same way. So it's both judgment of self and others. And this is one of the ways to unplug from the patriarchal paradigm, the control matrix, is when that comes up, to recognize it and let it go and know that it is not true. Because a part of this, this journey is about self-love. And, we've had this separation from source, but we're having the potential, I feel like now, to turn around and start our way back to source, That's been part of the experiment of being here on earth, is coming here and forgetting that we are part of, that we are love, that we all wear a face of Creator. We all have the divine spark in our hearts. As we are in this, and I would say Uranus is also about liberation. It's about freedom and liberation. But as we are in this liberation process, the matrix gets tighter because it is actually the catalyst for our evolution. And I'm going to speak of Wendy Kennedy again because she told a really great story about the beings on Orion, that they were in a very similar situation as we find ourselves right now, with the control matrix being very tight, and their technology was superior to ours, and they even had their thoughts monitored. And so if anyone even thought something out of alignment with what was acceptable by those in power, there would be punishment. But what they learned was that as they raised their frequency and raised their thoughts, the vibration and frequency of their thoughts, and they were in their field of imagination and dreaming of the world that they wanted to have, not the world they were in, their thoughts could not be monitored. And so I feel like that's the other piece of it, it's all about frequency. It is all about remembering that we are conscious co-creators, and bringing light into form is about working in the quantum field, and that thought creates, and to remember that, and to pay attention as to where we focus our thoughts and detach from the drama. The drama is real. I mean, it's going on, but we don't have to play that game. It is about focusing on the world we want, not resisting the one we have. But that takes constant inner work to be conscious and aware of that. It is also a time of potential downloads. It's a very fertile ground for new ideas. We are in the times of some great awakening and activation of the light codes, as we release the fear and conditioning and really focus on the world we want. Now, Mars is another ruler of Scorpio, and so Mars is in Scorpio. It's its own sign, and it's also in a square to Saturn in Aquarius. And so I feel like Mars is about courage, and it's about facing our fear of the darkness within. It is about the courage to look within and to recognize that everything is created from the inside out. Okay? And when we do this, we become self-empowered. It's about the courage to stand in our own truth and aligned with our conscience, and detach from the drama of what is going on around us. As it is not about the judgment of others, as we do not know what is their truth or their highest good. But it is about focusing on the new, the courage to focus, like I said, on what we want to create and our mission in life. Now, one last thing about this new moon. This new moon is in a trine to Neptune, and Neptune is where the divine grace comes in. So even in this midst of change and uncertainty and this new territory that we are covering, we are being held in divine grace at all times. And it's important to recognize that we are not here to understand the mystery, but to experience the mystery and follow its flow. And as our field get clearer, the ability to trust the messages of spirit and our intuition gets stronger. And as we are centered and clear in our hearts, it allows us to follow the flow of divine guidance, and and it's kind of like tuning into that, that frequency, that a station that is love. Like when you're turning on the radio, you want to tune into that frequency of love. That is the station that we are aligning with. And when we are able to tune into that frequency, the divine guidance comes through so much more clearly with less static. And then we are able to sense the currents of life and surrender to them. and we can recognize that we are in the flow of divine grace, and letting go and trusting that the universe knows what it is doing. The way to become one with the universe is to trust it. And we are in these times of following the flow. Sometimes we don't know. And it is about surrendering. And our heart really does know the way when we take the time to listen and our frequency is on a clear channel. And I want to close with the Hopi saying, I'm paraphrasing here, to jump into the river and let go of the shore, that the river knows its destination. So allow the flow to take you where you need to be right now. Trust that inner guidance. Know that that is what is really tuned up high during this month of November. There are great potential for downloads coming in, as well as the potential to release old patterns that no longer serve us, so that we can raise our frequency and create the world that we want. Aho. Well, have a wonderful November. If you liked this video, please click subscribe, and you can follow me. I have a website, sybylstar.com, that tells you all about me. All right. Have a wonderful month. Thank you.